Hello and welcome to Black Lady Tales. My name is Dorothy Matthews, and I need you to take a deep breath because what I'm about to tell you is something no grandmother should ever have to say out loud. I watched my own son throw away his baby girl like she was trash, all because she was born deaf. I'm 61 years old now, living here in Charleston, South Carolina, where the humidity wraps around you like a second skin, and the church bells ring out over cobblestone streets every Sunday morning. For 32 years, I worked as a nurse at Roper Hospital, tending to folks at their most vulnerable moments, births, deaths, and everything in between. I raised my son Marcus by myself after his daddy passed from a heart attack when Marcus was just 7 years old. James had been loading trucks at the port when he collapsed. One minute he was here, the next minute gone. That's when I learned that life don't give you warnings about the storms coming your way. Marcus grew up watching me work double shifts, studying by the light of the break room while I checked on patients. He saw me come home with swollen feet and still cook him dinner, help with homework, iron his school clothes for the next day. I thought I was teaching him about sacrifice and love. I thought I was raising him right. If this story is touching your heart already, please hit that like button to let this grandmother know you're with me. Subscribe to Black Lady Tales so you don't miss what happens next. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if you've ever had to fight for a child the world gave up on. That April morning in 2016 started like a blessing. My phone rang at 5:47 a.m. I remember because I was already awake, drinking my first cup of coffee and watching the sunrise paint the sky purple over Charleston Harbor. It was Marcus, his voice tight with that particular nervousness that comes with first-time fatherhood. "Mama, it's happening. Stephanie's water broke. We're at MUSC. Medical University of South Carolina Hospital. I delivered plenty of babies there myself back in my nursing days. I threw on my good Sunday dress, the navy one with small flowers, grabbed the gift bag I'd had ready for weeks, and drove through empty morning streets with my heart singing. Inside that bag was a pink teddy bear I'd found at the Saturday market, handmade by a local woman, and a bouquet of yellow roses because Stephanie loved yellow. The drive took 12 minutes. I parked crooked in my excitement, had to back out and straighten the car. My hands were shaking as I walked through those automatic doors, the familiar hospital smell of floor wax and coffee hitting me. The security guard, Mr. Willie, recognized me from my working days. "Ms. Dorothy, here to meet that grandbaby?" "Yes, sir, Mr. Willie, first one." He smiled wide, gold tooth catching the fluorescent light. Blessed day, blessed day. I found the maternity ward, expecting to hear the healthy cry of a newborn, expecting to see my son's face lit up with pride. Instead, I found Nurse Patricia. I'd trained her myself years ago, standing by the nurse's station with her shoulders rigid, that look medical folks get when they're holding bad news. "Dorothy," she said, soft, "they asked me to bring you to the family conference room." Not the recovery room, not the nursery, the family conference room. That's where doctors deliver the kind of news that changes everything. The hallway stretched longer than I remembered. Patricia's white shoes squeaked against the linoleum. Someone's baby was crying somewhere distant, the sound muffled through walls. The conference room door was heavy wood, and behind it sat my son and his wife, still in her hospital gown, their faces carved from stone. Marcus stood when I entered but didn't move toward me. No hug, no smile. Stephanie stared at the wall like she could bore through it with her eyes. Between them, on the table, was a manila folder closed. "Where's my grandbaby?" I asked, though my stomach already knew something was terribly wrong. Marcus cleared his throat. He was wearing his expensive suit, the Tom Ford one he bought after his promotion to senior marketing director. Even at his daughter's birth, he had to look successful. "She's in the nursery. The doctors ran some tests." "Tests? What kind of tests? Is she sick?" "She's deaf, Mama." The words came out flat, like he was reading a weather report. "They did the hearing test twice. She can't hear nothing. We can't raise a damaged child. We're putting her up for adoption. The papers are already being drawn up." The room tilted. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. "Damaged? Did you just call your baby damaged?" Stephanie finally looked at me, her green eyes cold as January. "We have careers, Dorothy. We have plans. A special needs child wasn't part of that." "Being deaf ain't special needs," I heard myself say, my voice rising. "Deaf folks live full lives. They're doctors, teachers, everything. I worked with a deaf surgeon who could run circles around hearing folks. This ain't your decision." Marcus's jaw set the same way it did when he was 5 and refusing to eat his vegetables. But this wasn't vegetables. This was his child. "We're her parents. She's going to a family that can handle this. We want normal children. This conversation is over." "Let me see her," I said. "Let me see my granddaughter." They exchanged looks. Stephanie shrugged. 10 minutes, Marcus said. "The adoption coordinator will be here at 11. Nurse Patricia led me to the nursery, her hand gentle on my back. Through the window, I saw her immediately. She was in the third bassinet, wrapped in a standard white and pink striped blanket. The card read, "Baby Girl Johnson." They hadn't even given her a name. Patricia buzzed me in. The moment I picked her up, everything else fell away. She was so small, maybe 6 pounds. Her skin was the color of brown sugar, smooth, and perfect. 10 tiny fingers with fingernails like seed pearls. Her eyes were closed, long lashes resting against round cheeks. She yawned, a little pink tongue appearing and settled against my chest like she belonged there. She smelled like baby powder and new beginnings and unconditional love. I traced her features. Marcus's nose, my mama's chin, Stephanie's delicate ears. Those ears that would never hear my voice but could still feel the vibration when I hummed against her head. "I'm gonna call you Hope, baby girl," I whispered into those perfect silent ears. "Because that's what you are to me." Stephanie appeared in the doorway. "We've made our choice, Dorothy. You need to respect that. Don't make this harder than it already is." Mrs. Patterson from the adoption agency arrived exactly at 11, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. She had papers, forms, procedures. She spoke in gentle tones about what's best for everyone and wonderful families waiting. I had to put Hope in that standard issue car seat. My hands memorized the weight of her, the warmth. Mrs. Patterson carried her out, and I followed to the parking garage, watching them strap that car seat into a gray sedan. The last thing I saw was Hope's tiny fist, escaped from the blanket, waving in the air like she was trying to grab hold of something. The fluorescent lights in that parking garage buzzed like angry wasps. The smell of exhaust and rain-wet concrete filled my lungs. I stood there long after the sedan's taillights disappeared down King Street, my arm still shaped to hold a baby who was gone. But standing in that empty parking garage, listening to my own heartbeat echo off concrete walls, I made a promise to myself and to God and to that baby girl. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Marcus thought I'd given up, thought I'd accepted his decision like a good mother should. He had no idea what he'd just started. I didn't know how long it would take or what I'd have to do, but I was going to find my granddaughter, and somehow, someway, I was going to bring her home where she belonged. The drive home from Medical University Hospital should have taken 12 minutes, but I made it exactly 3 miles before my vision blurred so bad I had to pull over on Highway 17, right by the old Magnolia Cemetery entrance. My 2016 Camry idled on the shoulder while 18-wheelers thundered past, shaking the car with their weight. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and let out a sound I didn't know my body could make, something between a wail and a prayer. The tears came hot and angry, soaking the front of my good Sunday dress, the one I'd put on that morning thinking I'd be holding my granddaughter in celebration photos. Where did I go wrong? I asked the empty car. How did I raise a son who values image over love? The truth was, I could trace it back if I was honest with myself. Marcus had been such a tender child before James died. He used to rescue earthworms from the sidewalk after rain, carefully placing them back in the grass. He'd share his lunch with kids who forgot theirs. But death changes children in ways we don't always see coming. After James's funeral, 7-year-old Marcus stood at the gravesite in his too big suit and asked me, "If Daddy was good, why did God take him?" I didn't have an answer then, still don't, but something shifted in my boy that day. He stopped rescuing worms, started counting everything, his toys, his grades, his accomplishments, like he could prevent loss by being perfect. I pushed him, Lord knows I did. Every B plus had to become an A. Every achievement had to be bigger than the last. When folks at church whispered about that poor Matthews boy with no daddy, I made sure Marcus heard about it, used it as fuel. "You show them," I'd say, straightening his collar before school. "You show them a black boy from downtown Charleston can be somebody." He showed them all right. Valedictorian at Burke High School. Full scholarship to Clemson University. First in his family to graduate college. Then his MBA from the Citadel. Each accomplishment felt like a victory against everyone who thought a widow's son wouldn't amount to much. I was so busy being proud, I didn't notice when achievement became more important than character. By the time Marcus hit 35, he was VP of marketing at a tech firm in Mount Pleasant, pulling down 6 figures, living in a house with columns and a 3-car garage in a gated community where the HOA fined you if your grass grew a quarter inch too tall. Stephanie came from similar ambitions: junior league membership, tennis at the club every Tuesday, charity galas where they bid on vacations they'd never take because work always came first. 3 weeks after that horrible day at the hospital, I drove to their house uninvited. The security guard at the gate knew me, let me through with a sympathetic nod that told me he'd heard something. Bad news travels fast in Charleston, even in the fancy neighborhoods. Marcus's Tesla was in the driveway. I rang the doorbell. They had one of those video doorbells that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I saw the curtain move in the front window, Marcus's shadow, but the door stayed closed. I knocked harder. "Marcus, open this door. We need to talk." When he finally opened it, he didn't step aside to let me in. Just stood there in his Princeton alumni t-shirt and designer jeans, blocking the entrance to his perfect life. "There's nothing to discuss, Mama." "You gave away your child, my grandchild. There's everything to discuss." The neighbors, the Weatherbys from 2 doors down, were pretending to check their mail, ears perked like hunting dogs. Marcus noticed too, his jaw tightening. "You don't understand, Mama. Stephanie and I have a certain life. Our friends, our community. They expect things. A deaf child would be a burden. She deserves parents who can give her what she needs. We're doing what's best for everyone. What she needs is her family. What she needs is love. You don't throw away a child because she's not perfect. Nobody's perfect, Marcus. Lord knows you aren't." The door slammed so hard the wreath fell off. I stood there on that pristine porch with its matching rocking chairs nobody ever sat in, watching that wreath roll across the manicured lawn. The Weatherbys had gone inside, but I felt eyes from every window. The walk back to my car felt like walking through molasses, the Charleston heat pressing down like judgment. Marcus blocked my number that night. Stephanie's parents up in Columbia, the kind of people who monogrammed everything and called dinner supper, sent me a formal letter saying they supported their daughter's decision and requesting I respect their privacy. That Thanksgiving, I ate a turkey sandwich alone at my kitchen table, watching the families on my street load up their cars with grandchildren and casserole dishes. But solitude gave me time to research. I spent those lonely nights at my kitchen table, laptop open, coffee growing cold, learning everything I could about deafness. The medical sites called it hearing loss and disability. But then I found the other sites, the ones written by deaf people themselves, with that capital D that means culture, not condition. I learned that 466 million people worldwide have hearing loss. That deaf children who learn sign language early show the same language development as hearing children. That Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. produces deaf doctors, lawyers, scientists. That calling deaf children damaged was like calling left-handed children broken because they don't use their right hand. The cruelty of Marcus's words hit different once I understood. He'd thrown away a perfect baby because she experienced the world differently. January 2017, cold enough that I had to scrape frost off my windshield. Rare for Charleston. I sat in my living room with my coffee and my laptop and realized I had two choices: give up and grieve forever, or fight with everything I had. Charleston Community College offered American Sign Language classes Tuesday and Thursday evenings. The instructor was Professor Williams, born deaf, teaching ASL for 20 years. I signed up online, my fingers shaking as I entered my credit card information. 54 years old and going back to school. That first class, I walked into a room full of college kids who probably thought I was somebody's grandmother who'd wandered into the wrong room. Professor Williams signed something, and a young interpreter voiced, "Welcome to ASL 101. Tonight we begin with no voice, only hands." My fingers felt like sausages trying to form those first signs. "Hello. My name. Nice to meet you." The 20-somethings picked it up quick, their young brains absorbing language like sponges. I fumbled, forgot, started over. Professor Williams caught my frustration, came over, and slowly signed, "Patient. Language is garden. Time to grow." At my age, my brain didn't want to learn new tricks. I'd come home from 8-hour shifts at the hospital. I'd gone back to work part-time to pay for everything, and stand in front of my bathroom mirror practicing signs until my shoulders ached. I watched YouTube videos until my eyes crossed, bought flashcards, labeled everything in my house with signs: the coffee maker, the refrigerator, the picture of Hope I'd secretly taken at the hospital. Every time exhaustion made me want to quit, I'd look at that picture. Imagine her at 6 months sitting up now, 8 months crawling, a year old, taking first steps. Was someone signing to her? Did she have language? Did she know she was loved? I hired James Cruz in February 2017, a private investigator who specialized in adoption searches. His office was above a seafood restaurant on Market Street, and everything smelled like fried shrimp. He was honest from the start, drumming his fingers on a desk covered in manila folders. "Closed adoptions through agencies are nearly impossible to crack, Ms. Matthews. The records are sealed tighter than Fort Knox." But we tried anyway. 3 months later, he called with the first dead end. "The agency says they have no record of an adoption under Marcus and Stephanie Johnson's names. Either they're lying, which is possible, or your son used another method." Private adoption attorney. Had to be. The kind rich folks use when they want everything quiet and quick. The trail just got harder. I found a support group that met at St. Philip's Episcopal Church on Thursday nights. 5 other grandparents, all searching for grandchildren lost to adoption or custody battles. Helen had been searching for 15 years. Her daughter had given up a baby at 16, and Helen had been looking ever since. She was 73 now, still looking. "What kind of grandmother gives up?" Helen asked the group one night, and we all nodded because we knew. The kind that never existed. We don't give up. We just learn to live. With the searching. 18 months after that horrible day at the hospital, Professor Williams handed me my ASL Level 2 certificate. My signs were still slow, sometimes clumsy, but I could hold conversations. I could tell stories with my hands. I still had no idea where Hope was, but I was ready. The deaf community was smaller than I'd imagined and tighter than family. They looked out for each other, shared information, celebrated each child born into or adopted into their culture. If hope was out there being raised in the deaf community, eventually someone would know something. Someone always knows something. I just had to keep looking, keep learning, keep believing that my granddaughter was out there somewhere, waiting to be found. By year 2 of my search, I'd become someone I barely recognized in the mirror. 56 years old with gray creeping through my braids like silver thread, my hands moving in sign language even when I talked to myself at the grocery store. The produce manager at Piggly Wiggly thought I'd lost my mind, watching me sign tomatoes while picking through the bin. But my hands had learned a new language, and they couldn't help speaking it. Sometimes I'd catch myself signing my thoughts while driving, one hand on the wheel, the other forming words nobody could see. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I volunteered at the South Carolina School for the Deaf in Spartanburg, making that 2-hour drive before dawn to help in the elementary classrooms. Mrs. Chen, the kindergarten teacher, would have me read picture books in ASL while she voiced for the few hearing kids in the integrated program. 20 pairs of small hands would follow along, signing bear and honey and home as I turned the pages. I fell in love with every child. The boy named Xavier, who signed so fast his hands blurred. The girl named Precious, who always wore purple bows and signed with dramatic flair like she was on Broadway. Each time a new child arrived, my heart would skip. Could this be hope? But the ages never matched. The timing was always wrong. What struck me most was the beauty I'd never known existed. These children laughed in complete silence, their joy visible in shaking shoulders and wide-open mouths. No sound needed. They told jokes with their faces, sarcasm with their eyebrows, whole stories in the space between their hands. I watched 5-year-olds sign poetry that would make grown folks cry, their small fingers painting pictures in the air that spoken words could never capture. The deaf community embraced me in ways I didn't expect. They gave me my sign name in month 6, Faithful Heart, the sign for loyalty crossed with the sign for love traced over my chest. Miss Regina, a 73-year-old deaf woman who'd been signing since birth, took me under her wing like I was her own daughter. "Your signing is like a hearing person walking," she told me through an interpreter once, brutal but kind. "You get where you're going, but everyone can see you're not from here." Then she spent 3 hours teaching me to make my signing flow, to use my face and body, not just my hands. Thomas, a young deaf teacher from Atlanta, worked with me on grammar every Thursday. ASL doesn't follow English rules. It has its own poetry, its own logic. "Think in pictures, not words," on he'd sign, patient as I fumbled through conversations that 5-year-olds could handle better than me. Twice I thought I'd found her. The first was a girl named Destiny in Greenville, right age, adopted 3 years ago. I drove 4 hours to a deaf church service just to see her, my heart pounding as I walked through those doors. But Destiny was white with red hair, and her adoptive parents had gotten her from foster care, not private adoption. The second was in Myrtle Beach, a child named Amber. James Cruz had tracked down a private adoption from the right time period. I spent $500 I didn't have on gas and a motel, volunteering at a deaf beach event where Amber's family would be. But Amber was 2 years too old, adopted from a teenage mother, not my Marcus. Each false lead broke something in me. I'd sit in my car afterward, looking at that hospital photo of hope, wondering if I was chasing ghosts. Meanwhile, Marcus stayed silent. 3 years without a word. I heard through my hairdresser, who heard from her cousin, that Stephanie was pregnant again. They were trying for their perfect child, the one without defects. The rage that filled me could have powered all of Charleston. September 2018, the Deaf Cultural Festival came to Marion Square in downtown Charleston. It was the biggest gathering of deaf folks our state had ever seen. People drove from Georgia, North Carolina, even Florida. The square filled with hundreds of hands moving in conversation, food vendors who knew to point at menu items instead of shouting, performances on stage with ASL interpreters and deaf performers. I volunteered at the information booth, my signing now fluid enough that folks didn't immediately know I was hearing. A woman named Patricia approached around 2 in the afternoon, looking for information about deaf schools in the area. She was black, maybe 45, with natural hair wrapped in a beautiful headscarf. We started chatting in sign, casual conversation about the weather, the festival, where we were from. Columbia, she signed. You? Charleston, but I travel to Columbia sometimes for deaf events. Oh, you might know my cousin then. She adopted a deaf little girl about 3 years ago. They're very active in the Columbia deaf community. My hands froze mid-sign. I forced them to move, to stay casual. Really? Through the state? No, private adoption. Some young couple in Charleston gave her up because she was deaf. Can you imagine? Patricia shook her head. Thank God the Richardsons found her. Both parents are deaf themselves. They have 2 other kids, all signing. That baby landed in the perfect family. Richardson. I had a name. How wonderful. I signed, my hands surprisingly steady. The Richardsons, you said. I might have met them at an event. Robert and Keisha Richardson. He works at the deaf school in Columbia. She does freelance interpreting. Their little girl, they named her Maya. She's about 3.5 now. Sweetest thing. Maya. They'd renamed my Hope. Patricia pulled out her phone, showed me a photo from a family barbecue. There in the center was a little girl with cornrowed hair decorated with yellow beads, standing between 2 older children, all of them signing at the camera. Even in the photo, I could see Marcus's nose, my mother's chin. That was my granddaughter. Beautiful family. I managed to sign, memorizing every detail of the photo. That little girl is blessed. Patricia continued. The Richardsons are wonderful people. Maya fits right in like she was born to them. After Patricia left, I sat at that booth for another 3 hours, but I don't remember a single other conversation. My mind was spinning with one fact. I'd found her. I'd found Hope, Maya. Whatever her name was, I'd found my granddaughter. James Cruz worked his magic with just a name and location. Within a week, he had everything. Address in the Rosewood neighborhood of Columbia, Robert's employment at the South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind, Keisha's freelance business, the older children named David and Sarah. He even pulled public social media photos. I sat at my laptop at 11 at night, cursor hovering over the file James had sent. Once I opened it, once I saw her, there would be no going back. I clicked. The first photo showed Maya at what looked like a birthday party, cake smeared on her laughing face. The second, her on a swing set, legs kicked out, head thrown back in joy. The third, a family portrait. All 5 Richardsons in matching white shirts and jeans, Maya in the middle, everyone's hands forming I love you in sign language. That's her. I said to my empty kitchen. That's my Hope. I know my own blood. But knowing brought a different kind of pain. The Richardsons hadn't stolen her. They'd saved her from the uncertainty of floating through the system. They'd given her language, culture, family. They were giving her everything Marcus had refused to give. What right did I have to disrupt that? I didn't sleep for 3 nights wrestling with the question. Did I watch from afar, knowing she was safe and loved? Did I approach them with the truth and risk destroying their peace? Did I have any right to insert myself into their lives? On the 4th night, I made my decision. I needed to see her in person, not to take her back, she wasn't mine to take, but to know for certain, to see with my own eyes that she was happy. Maybe find a way to be part of her life without destroying what the Richardsons had built. The Columbia deaf community held coffee chats every first Saturday at a place called Drip on Main Street. October 5th, I drove those 90 miles with my hands shaking on the wheel, practicing what I'd sign if I met them, how I'd act natural, how I'd keep my secret locked inside. Drip was one of those hipster coffee shops with exposed brick and mismatched chairs, but the deaf community had claimed it as their own. I walked in at 10:15 and the place was packed with signing hands. Then I saw them. Robert Richardson was tall, lean, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Keisha was shorter, rounder, with a smile that lit up her whole face. David looked about 10. Sarah maybe 8, both mixed race like their parents. And there, sitting in a booster seat eating a chocolate muffin, was Maya. My legs went weak. I grabbed the DEO nearest chair, sank into it before I fell. A waitress asked if I was okay, but I couldn't hear her over the roaring in my ears. 3 tables away sat my granddaughter, her small hands moving animated as she told her mother something about the muffin. Chocolate smeared on her chin, completely and utterly happy. She had Marcus's nose, yes, but she had my grandmother's eyes, deep brown with flecks of gold. Her hair was in neat cornrows with yellow beads that clicked when she moved her head. When she laughed, that silent, joyful laugh, her whole body shook with it. The Richardsons were everything parents should be. Robert wiped Maya's face gently. Keisha helped her sign a word she was struggling with. The older kids included her in their conversation, patient when her 3-year-old hands couldn't keep up. This was a family, a real family. A deaf man at the next table noticed my tears, signed, "You okay?" "Happy tears," I signed back, and it was partly true. I stayed until they left, watched them bundle Maya into a car seat in a Honda Pilot, watched them drive away. Then I sat in my Camry for 2 more hours, engine off, just processing what I'd seen. When I finally started the car, I didn't drive home. I followed them. Not close. 3 cars back, careful. Just enough to see where my granddaughter lived. The house was perfect. Yellow with white shutters, the kind of house I dreamed of buying Marcus when he was little but could never afford. A tire swing hung from a massive oak in the front yard. As I watched from down the street, Maya ran straight for that swing. Keisha pushed her, both of them signing and laughing, Maya's beads clicking in the afternoon sun. Robert was teaching David to throw a football. Sarah was reading on the porch. A normal Saturday afternoon for a happy family. I thought about Marcus and his gated community, about the hospital, about the words damaged child. My granddaughter wasn't damaged. She was thriving, she was loved, she was home. And I was about to make the hardest decision of my life, whether to leave her in this perfect world or tell the truth and risk destroying everything. The decision to become part of Maya's world without destroying it required the kind of patience I'd never practiced before, like trying to thread a needle in the dark while wearing winter gloves. I couldn't just walk up to the Richardsons and announce I was Maya's biological grandmother. That would be selfish chaos, the kind that leaves children confused and families broken. Instead, I chose the slow path, becoming a regular face at Columbia's deaf events, just another volunteer who loved working with children. Let time and familiarity do what confrontation couldn't. November's first Saturday coffee chat at Drip came faster than expected. I arrived early, claimed a corner table where I could see the door, and practiced my casual introduction in my head. When the Richardson family walked in, Maya wearing a purple jacket with sparkly unicorns, I waited exactly 12 minutes before approaching Keisha at the coffee counter. "The lavender latte is amazing here," I signed, keeping my face pleasant, neutral. She turned, smiled. "You were at the festival in Charleston. The information booth, right?" "Yes, Dorothy, and you're from Columbia." We fell into easy conversation, the kind that happens naturally between people who share a language and culture. Keisha's signing was beautiful, her whole body involved in the conversation. She told me about moving to Columbia from Atlanta 8 years ago, about meeting Robert at a deaf expo, about their journey adopting Maya. "Private adoption?" I asked, stirring sugar into my coffee with studied casualness. "Very private. The birth parents wanted no contact, which is fine. Maya is ours now. But sometimes I wonder about medical history, you know? My throat closed up. Marcus never provided medical history, never thought it mattered for a damaged child he was discarding. You volunteer with deaf children? Keisha asked, changing the subject. Every chance I get. Retired nurse, so I have time now. Her face lit up. We run a Saturday program for deaf preschoolers at the community center. Always need volunteers. You should come. 3 weeks later, I was sitting at a craft table covered in construction paper and safety scissors when Maya ran up with her friend Sophie, both of them signing so fast their hands blurred. Hi, what your name? Maya signed to me, her head tilted with curiosity. My name is Dorothy, what's yours? My name Maya. She fingerspelled it carefully, proud of knowing her letters. Maya, not Hope. The Richardsons had given her a new name with her new life. The knife twisted in my chest, but I kept smiling. Maya was a beautiful name. It meant dream in Sanskrit, water in Hebrew. It suited her. Can you make friendship bracelet? She asked, pointing to the embroidery thread in my supply box. I can. Want to learn? For the next hour, I taught my granddaughter to braid thread, her small fingers fumbling with the knots. When she concentrated, she bit her bottom lip. Exactly the way Marcus used to when doing homework. Same gesture, 30 years apart. Genetics telling secrets I couldn't speak. Every time I looked at Maya, I saw my family. Marcus's nose, definitely. My grandmother's eyes with those gold flecks. The Matthews family cheekbones that photographed so well. My brother Samuel's ears that stuck out just a little. If anyone from my family saw her, they'd know immediately. But the Richardsons had no connection to Charleston, no reason to suspect their volunteer Miss Dorothy was anything more than a helpful retiree. Twice a month became every week, then twice a week. I drove those 90 miles between Charleston and Columbia. So often, my Camry could probably make the trip on its own. Maya started looking for me at events, running to show me her artwork, climbing into my lap during story time, her small body warm against mine while other volunteers read picture books in ASL. The guilt ate at me like battery acid. Keisha and Robert trusted me completely. They invited me to family dinners, shared concerns about Maya's education, asked advice about medical questions. They were good people, the kind who opened their home and hearts without suspicion. Every smile they gave me was a knife because they didn't know they were smiling at someone living a massive lie. I learned Maya's whole life in pieces. She went to the South Carolina School for the Deaf's early education program Monday through Friday. Loved art class, especially finger painting. Her best friend Sophie was Korean, also deaf, adopted by hearing parents who were learning sign language. Maya was terrified of dogs since a neighbor's retriever knocked her down, but she loved cats, especially the tabby, named Signing Sam, who lived at the deaf school. Maya wants to be a ballerina, Keisha told me one afternoon, laughing. We found a dance studio with a deaf teacher. You should see her in her tutu. I did see her, actually. Started happening to pass by the dance studio on Saturday mornings when Maya had class. Watched through the window as she spun and leaped, her purple tutu flying, completely unconscious of the music she couldn't hear, but feeling the vibrations through the floor. The video calls started in month 3. Keisha's mother lived in Detroit, also deaf, and they did family video chats every Sunday. One week, Maya insisted I join. Auntie Dorothy, she signed, pulling me toward the laptop screen. Auntie Dorothy, not grandmother, not the name I wanted, but the one I'd earned through deception. By Maya's 4th birthday in April, I was so deep in their lives that my absence would have raised questions. I bought her a children's book that came with ASL videos, wrapped it in paper covered with dancing bears. Dorothy, you've been such a blessing, Keisha signed to me privately that day. Maya adores you. You know her biological family didn't want her because she was deaf? Can you imagine? But their loss is our gain. She's our miracle, She is a miracle, I signed back, my hand steady even as my heart shattered into smaller and smaller pieces. Tuesday night, late April, my phone rang. Unknown number, but the 843 area code was Mount Pleasant. I almost didn't answer. Dorothy Matthews, this is Stephanie, Marcus's wife. We need to talk. Her voice sounded like she'd been gargling gravel. Exhaustion mixed with desperation. We met at a Starbucks in Somerville, halfway between our worlds. I arrived first, chose a table in the back corner. Stephanie walked in 10 minutes late, and I almost didn't recognize her. The put-together woman from the hospital was gone. This Stephanie had hollow eyes, unwashed hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and a College of Charleston hoodie with formula stains on the sleeve. Our son was born 4 months ago, she said without preamble. Carter. He has a congenital heart defect, tetralogy of Fallot. He's had 2 surgeries already. He'll need more. He'll need care his whole life. He'll never be normal. The irony sat between us like a third person at the table. I waited. Marcus is falling apart. He can't handle it. He keeps saying this is punishment, that God is punishing us for giving up our daughter. She laughed, bitter and sharp. He's been drinking, lost his job last month. He's talking about... She stopped, tears running down her face, not bothering to wipe them. Talking about what? He wants to find her, our daughter. He wants her back. He's been trying to contact the adoption attorney, but Bernard Hutchins retired, moved to Florida. The records are sealed. Marcus hired 3 different private investigators, but they can't find anything. He's obsessed. Our marriage is falling apart. Carter needs us present, focused, and Marcus spends every night searching adoption reunion websites. So now that your son isn't perfect, suddenly your daughter matters? The words came out harder than intended. Stephanie flinched. I know how it sounds. I know what we did was wrong. I was 26 and stupid, and I let Marcus convince me that image mattered more than our baby. But now I see... She gestured helplessly. I see Carter, tubes coming out of his chest, machines keeping him alive sometimes, and I love him so much it physically hurts. And I realize we threw away our baby girl for no reason. For nothing, for Marcus's pride. What's the attorney's full name? Bernard Hutchins. Bernard James Hutchins had an office on King Street. We paid him $30,000 cash to make everything disappear quietly. $30,000 to erase a grandchild. The number made me nauseous. Do you still have paperwork? I kept copies. Marcus doesn't know. I hid them in my jewelry box. I'll help you find her, I said carefully. But not for Marcus. Not for you. For her. To make sure she's okay. Stephanie grabbed my hand across the table. Thank you, thank you. I know I don't deserve... I pulled away. You're right, you don't. The drive home, my mind spun like a tire in mud. Marcus wanted Maya back. Not because he loved her, he didn't know her, but because his perfect son wasn't perfect and his guilt was eating him alive. The Richardsons had legal adoption papers. Dorothy was living a lie that grew bigger every day, and Maya? Maya was happy, loved, thriving, unaware of the storm building around her. That night, I went to the adoption support group, found Helen afterward. I need to tell you something, I said, and spilled everything. Finding Maya, infiltrating her life, Stephanie's visit, Marcus's breakdown, the whole twisted mess. Helen listened, her 73-year-old face calm. When I finished, she said simply, "The truth always comes out, Dorothy. Better you control when and how than let it explode on its own." She was right. Marcus wouldn't stop searching. Eventually, he'd find what I'd found. The deaf community connection, the Richardsons, Maya. If he showed up at their door unannounced, claiming parental rights he'd signed away. Disaster. I needed to tell Keisha and Robert the truth. Do it right. Put Maya's needs first, always first. Saturday morning, I texted Keisha, asked if we could have coffee, just the two of us. I had something important to discuss. Thursday night, my phone rang. Keisha, video call, her face bright with excitement. Dorothy, the most wonderful news. Robert got offered a position at the South Carolina School for the Deaf's Charleston campus. Better pay, better benefits. We're moving to Charleston. We'll be neighbors. Maya will grow up near you. My face smiled because that's what faces do when they're trained to lie. Inside, my heart sank straight through the floor. The Richardsons in Charleston, Maya in my city, Marcus 10 minutes away. All my compartmentalized worlds about to collapse into each other. When? I managed to sign. Next month, isn't it perfect? Maya adores you. Now you can see her all the time. Perfect. Yes. Perfectly catastrophic. The truth was going to come out sooner than I'd planned in ways I couldn't control. And my granddaughter, happy, innocent, signing Maya, would be caught in the middle of it all. The U-Haul pulled up to the yellow house on a Saturday morning in May, and I stood on the sidewalk holding a box of homemade biscuits, watching my whole carefully constructed lie prepare to explode. Maya burst out of the truck's cab like she'd been caged, her hands flying. My room, where my room? She grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the front door, her excitement vibrating through her small fingers. The Avondale neighborhood was quiet, tree-lined, the kind of place where kids rode bikes in the street and neighbors actually knew each other's names. 15 minutes from my apartment, 15 minutes from Marcus's old house. Too close. Everything suddenly too close. Dorothy, grab that lamp, would you? Robert called out, already hefting boxes like they weighed nothing. I helped them unpack all day. Dishes in the kitchen, books in the living room, Maya's toys scattered everywhere before we'd even finished bringing them in. The child ran through the house like she was claiming territory, testing light switches, opening closets, signing mine at everything she liked. By evening, we had pizza on paper plates, sitting on the floor because the dining table was still in pieces. Maya fell asleep in my lap, exhausted from the excitement, her small chest rising and falling against mine. Keisha snapped a photo with her phone, signed, "Perfect Memory." If only she knew what kind of memory she was really capturing. The new normal settled fast. With the Richardsons in Charleston, I saw Maya 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Tuesday afternoons, I'd pick her up from the Charleston School for the Deaf's early program, her backpack bouncing as she ran to my car. She'd spend the ride home teaching me new signs she'd learned, her hands moving so fast I'd have to ask her to slow down at red lights. Thursday evenings became baking lessons in my kitchen. Maya stood on a step stool, flour in her cornrows, learning to make sweet potato pie the way my grandmother taught me. She'd measure ingredients with the concentration of a surgeon, always putting in extra cinnamon because she liked how it smelled. The first pie she made without help, she insisted on taking home to show her parents. "I made, myself," she signed proudly, the pie slightly lopsided but perfect in every way that mattered. Her 5th birthday in April was 2 weeks away. I'd already bought presents, a set of books with ASL videos, a purple tutu because she'd outgrown her old one, a necklace with a small heart that said "loved" in sign language. Keisha was planning a party at Wanamaker County Park, the big pavilion reserved, 30 kids invited. I'd volunteered to make the cake. Maya wanted unicorns and rainbows, and I'd been practicing with fondant all week. Everything felt like it was building toward something beautiful until that Sunday at Hampton Park. The deaf community potluck happened monthly, and June's was bigger than usual. Summer break meant more families could come. Brought my famous mac and cheese, the recipe that had won 3 church cook-off competitions. Maya stayed attached to my hip, introducing me to everyone as my Auntie Dorothy, dragging me to see her friends, showing me the butterflies she'd caught and released. I was helping her make a flower crown from dandelions when I saw him. Marcus stood near the playground, scanning the crowd with the intensity of someone looking for lost keys in tall grass. My blood turned to ice water. He was thinner than I'd seen him in years. His clothes, still expensive, hanging loose on his frame. The corporate polish was gone, replaced by something desperate and hollow. He looked like a man haunted by his own choices. My mind calculated quickly. Marcus hadn't seen Maya since the hospital. He didn't know what she looked like at 5. Didn't know about the cornrows with beads, the purple glasses she wore for reading, the gap between her front teeth. I had maybe minutes before someone pointed out the deaf children, before he started looking closer. "Maya, honey, let's go help with the food tables," I signed, keeping my face calm. "But flowers," she protested, holding up her half-finished crown. "We'll finish after. Come on." I guided her behind the pavilion where Keisha was arranging desserts, my body blocking Marcus's view. "Can you watch Maya? I need to handle something." Keisha nodded, distracted by a melting ice cream cake. Maya immediately got involved, helping arrange cookies by color. Safe, for now. I walked across that park like I was walking to my own execution. Marcus didn't see me coming until I was 3 feet away. "Mama?" His voice cracked. "What are you doing here?" 4 years of silence between us, and those were his first words. "I could ask you the same thing. I hired another investigator." The words tumbled out fast, desperate. He found records of deaf community involvement with private adoptions in South Carolina. I've been going to events in Columbia, Greenville here, looking for your daughter?" I cut him off, my voice sharp enough to draw blood. "The one you called damaged? The one you threw away like she was defective merchandise?" He flinched. "I've changed, Mama. Carter, his surgeries, the doctors, watching him fight to breathe. It changed me, opened my eyes. I was wrong, so wrong. I need to find her. I need to tell her I'm sorry." "You don't get to make it right." My hands clenched into fists. "You don't get to waltz back in because suddenly imperfect children matter to you. You don't get to disrupt her life because you feel guilty." "Mama, please." His eyes were wet now. "If you know anything, if you've heard anything, I need to find her. I dream about her. Every night I dream about the baby we gave away. I need to know she's okay." I almost told him everything right there, almost pointed to the pavilion where his daughter was arranging cookies with the woman who'd become her real mother. But Maya had wandered back into view, looking for me, her hand signing, "Where Auntie Dorothy?" I stepped in front of Marcus, blocking his view. "If you want any chance of being in your daughter's life, you'll leave this park right now. Don't come back. Wait for me to call you. I'll explain everything, but not here, not now." He looked at me, really looked, and understanding dawned in his eyes. "You know where she is. Leave, now." He left, walked to his Tesla with his shoulders slumped, looking back once before driving away. I stood there until his taillights disappeared, then returned to Maya, who immediately showed me the cookie tower she'd built. That night, I called Keisha. "Can I come over Tuesday evening? There's something important we need to discuss." "Of course. Is everything okay?" "We just need to talk." Monday crawled by like it was walking through molasses. Tuesday was worse. I practiced my confession in the mirror, in the car, in my sleep. No version made it sound better. No words could justify what I'd done. Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. I sat in my car outside the yellow house for 5 minutes, gathering courage like scattered coins. Robert answered the door, his smile warm. "Dorothy, come in. Maya just went to bed." Good. This conversation couldn't happen with her awake. Keisha brought sweet tea and settled on the couch. They looked so comfortable, so trusting. I was about to destroy all of it. "There's something I need to tell you both." My hands shook as I signed and spoke simultaneously. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Their faces shifted from curious to concerned. My last name is Matthews. My son's name is Marcus Johnson. 4.5 years ago, his wife had a baby girl. I watched the understanding dawn like a horrible sunrise. Keisha's hand went to her mouth. Robert stood up so fast, the coffee table shifted. The baby was born deaf. I continued, unable to stop now. My son rejected her, said she was damaged. I was at the hospital. I held her once before they gave her up for private adoption. I spent 2 years learning ASL and searching for her. No, Keisha whispered. I found her 3 years ago, at a cafe in Colombia. I found Maya. I've known who she was this whole time. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Robert's hands moved harsh and sharp. You lied to us? For 1.5 years? You became our friend. Keisha's voice broke. You became part of Maya's life, part of our family, all while lying about who you were? I didn't know what to do. The words sounded pathetic even to me. I wanted to know she was okay. I wanted to be in her life. You are her real parents. You gave her everything her biological father couldn't. I wasn't trying to take her back. I just wanted to love her. You manipulated us. Robert's signing was aggressive now, his face flushed. You used the deaf community to get close to our daughter. You violated our trust, our home, everything. There's more. I had to tell them everything. Marcus is looking for her. He's been coming to deaf events. He was at Hampton Park on Sunday. He was there? Keisha's horror was visceral. He saw her. I don't think so. I got between them, but he's looking, and he'll eventually find you. His other child, the son they had after, has serious health issues. It's changed him. He wants to find Maya. Maya. Robert signed, sharp as glass. Her name is Maya, not whatever you called her. Maya Richardson, our daughter. We adopted her legally, Keisha said, her voice stronger now. He has no rights. We have all the paperwork. If he tries anything, we'll get a restraining order. Robert pointed at me. And you. You need to leave, now. Please. I was crying now, dignity abandoned. I love her. I know I lied. I know I betrayed your trust. But I love Maya more than my own life. Please don't take her from me. You're taking yourself from her. Keisha's tears ran freely. We trusted you. Maya loves you, calls you Auntie Dorothy every day, and now we have to tell her that the woman she adores has been lying to us since day one. Do you know what that will do to her? Robert walked to the door, opened it. The message was clear. I stood on legs that barely worked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Robert signed. Get out. I walked out into the Charleston night, humid air hitting me like a wall. Behind me, the yellow house with white shutters, Maya's house where I'd taught her to make pie, where I'd read her stories, where I'd pretended to be someone I wasn't, disappeared into darkness. The drive home was dangerous. I couldn't see through the tears, had to pull over twice. Everything I'd built over 18 months, destroyed in 20 minutes. The relationship with Maya, over. The Richardsons' trust, shattered. The careful balance I'd maintained, gone. At home, Maya's photo sat on my nightstand. Last year's birthday party, her face covered in chocolate cake, signing "I love you" at the camera. I held it against my chest and sobbed until my ribs hurt. At midnight, I called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. Mama. I found her. I've known where she was for 2 years, and I just destroyed any chance of either of us being in her life. What? Mama, what are you talking about? We need to talk. Tomorrow, Waterfront Park, 8 a.m. everything. The next morning, I sat on the same bench where I used to bring Marcus to feed the ducks when he was small. He looked worse in daylight. Hollow cheeks, bags under his eyes, the look of a man who hadn't slept right in months. I told him everything. The Richardsons, Maya's life, my deception, how I'd infiltrated their world and had just been thrown out of it. When I finished, he was quiet for so long I thought he might not speak at all. Then, "We have to make this right, Mama. Not for us, for her. We need to give the Richardsons control. Let them decide. It's what we should have done from the beginning." I looked at my son, really looked at him, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw the boy I'd raised before pride and image consumed him. Maybe he had changed. Maybe it wasn't too late. But first, we had to convince a family we'd both betrayed that we deserved a second chance. And after what I'd done, I wasn't sure second chances were even possible. Marcus's hands shook so bad he could barely hold the pen, sitting at my kitchen table on a Thursday morning with legal pads scattered between us like confession papers. "I rejected my daughter because I was afraid of what people would think," he wrote, each word looking like it physically hurt him. "I prioritized image over love. I was wrong. My son Carter taught me that there is no such thing as a perfect child, only perfectly loved children. I don't deserve forgiveness, but Maya deserves to know her full story if you decide that's right for her." I added my own confession below his. "I lied to you because I was desperate. I thought I could control the outcome. I couldn't. I can only promise that whatever you decide, I will respect it. Maya's well-being comes first, always." We included photos of Carter, medical documentation showing his heart condition, proof that Marcus was in therapy. Everything that might help the Richardsons understand this wasn't manipulation. It was genuine change, however late it came. I drove to the Yellow House alone, my hands steady on the wheel, but my heart hammering. Maya's purple bike with training wheels sat in the driveway, her helmet hanging from the handlebars. Through the window, I could see her at the kitchen table, eating breakfast, signing something that made Robert laugh. I slipped our letter into their mailbox and left before anyone saw me, before I could lose my nerve and take it back. 2 months, 63 days of silence that felt like 63 years. Marcus called every few days. Anything. Nothing yet. Should we write again? No, we wait. Without Maya, my days felt hollow. I volunteered more hours at the Charleston School for the Deaf, but every child's laugh reminded me of what I'd lost. Every small hand signing reminded me of Maya's fingers making friendship bracelets. The other volunteers asked where my granddaughter was. They'd gotten used to seeing us together. I made excuses about family schedules. Marcus and I met for coffee every Saturday at the same diner on King Street. I watched my son transform week by week, attending AA meetings, going to therapy twice a week, being present for Carter in ways he'd never been present for anyone. He brought Carter to meet me when the baby was 10 months old, a beautiful boy with a zipper scar down his chest from his surgeries. "He's perfect," I told Marcus, holding my grandson while he grabbed at my earrings. "You know that, right? He's absolutely perfect." "I know, Mama." Tears rolled down Marcus's face. "I know that now." Wednesday afternoon, August 14th, 2:47 p.m. I was folding laundry when my phone rang. Keisha's number on the screen made me drop a pillowcase. "Dorothy?" "Yes." "Robert and I have talked, a lot. We've prayed. We've consulted Maya's therapist. We've done what we think is right for our daughter." The pause stretched like pulled taffy. I couldn't breathe. "Maya deserves to know where she comes from. She deserves to understand her full story. We're willing to arrange a meeting supervised with therapeutic support on our terms. If you or Marcus violate our boundaries, it's over. Do you understand?" "Yes." My voice cracked. "Thank you, thank you." We've told Maya an age-appropriate version. She knows her birth parents weren't ready to be parents when she was born. She knows you're her biological grandmother who's been searching for her. She knows Marcus is sorry. That's all. The details can come when she's older. Whatever you think is best. 3 weeks from Saturday. Dr. Patel's office in West Ashley. 10 a.m., 1 hour. Maya can stop the meeting anytime she feels uncomfortable. I marked September 7th on my calendar with a red circle, then sat staring at it like it might disappear. Marcus bought a new shirt for the meeting, tried on 3 different ones at the store, while I watched him fall apart in the fitting room. What if she hates me? He kept asking. She's 5. She doesn't know how to hate yet. Dr. Patel's office was designed for children. Rainbow walls, bins of toys, books everywhere. The therapist, a gentle woman with graying locks, explained the ground rules. We would follow Maya's lead. No pushing for hugs. No overwhelming her with emotion. Let her control the pace. Then the door opened. Maya walked in holding Keisha's hand, wearing a purple dress with unicorns on it, her hair in 2 puffs with matching purple ribbons. She'd grown in 2 months. Her face was fuller, her legs longer. When she saw me, confusion crossed her features. Dr. Patel signed and spoke. Maya, you remember Dorothy? She's your biological grandmother, your first grandmother, and this is Marcus, your birth father. Maya studied us, her head tilted. Then she signed to me. You're Auntie Dorothy, but Mama said you're my grandma for real? I am, I signed back, my hands surprisingly steady. I've loved you since the day you were born. She walked closer to Marcus, staring at his face with the intensity kids have when they're processing something big. Her small hand reached out, touched his nose. Same nose, she signed. We match. Marcus lost it. Tears streaming, he signed, I'm sorry, over and over, the only signs he'd learned in preparation for this moment. Maya looked at Keisha, confused. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, Keisha explained gently. Your birth father made a mistake when you were a baby, but he loves you very much. Maya patted Marcus's hand like she was comforting him, then went to the toy box and pulled out a puzzle. Want to help? She signed to us. For the next 40 minutes, we built puzzles and played with blocks while Maya chattered and signed about her cat named Whiskers, her best friend Sophie, how she was learning to read. Normal 5-year-old stuff. Beautiful in its ordinariness. When time was up, Maya hugged me tight, then looked at Marcus. Next time? She signed. If you want there to be a next time, I signed, for Marcus. She nodded, then skipped back to Keisha, taking her mother's hand like nothing earth-shaking had just happened. Once a month became twice a month, then every week. Maya gradually learned more of her story, asked harder questions. At 7 months in, she asked Marcus directly, "Why didn't you want me when I was a baby?" Marcus had practiced his answer with his therapist. I was scared. I didn't understand that being deaf didn't mean something was wrong with you. I was ignorant. And I'm so sorry. Maya thought about this, then signed matter-of-factly. It's okay. I love being deaf. I wouldn't want to be different. 8 months in, Maya asked to visit my house. The Richardsons agreed with conditions. She met Carter, immediately declaring herself his big sister, signing to him constantly even though he couldn't sign back yet. He'll learn, she informed everyone. I'll teach him. Today, 1 year after that first meeting, we have something I never imagined possible. Maya is now 6, thriving in first grade, reading above grade level in both English and ASL. She calls the Richardsons Mama and Daddy. They are her parents, the ones who chose her, raised her, loved her when her biological family couldn't. She calls Marcus by his first name, though sometimes she slips and calls him Daddy Marcus. She calls me Grandma Dorothy. Her artwork covers my refrigerator. We FaceTime every Tuesday. She invited me to her school play where she was a silent butterfly, the most beautiful butterfly I'd ever seen. The Richardsons and I can have coffee now without the weight of secrets. Robert even asked my advice about Maya's education options. We're not friends exactly, but we're family in the complicated way that modern families sometimes are. Marcus stays sober, 1 day at a time. He's a good father to Carter now, present and patient with his medical needs. He works to earn Maya's trust, understanding he'll never be her primary father, but grateful to be anything at all in her life. Last week, Maya asked me to teach her to make sweet potato pie, the same recipe I dreamed of sharing with her since that day in the hospital. We stood in my kitchen, her step stool pulled up to the counter, flour everywhere. As she measured cinnamon, she signed, "Grandma, I'm glad you didn't give up on me." I signed back, "Baby, I never could." Looking back on these 5 years, I learned truths that changed me. Family isn't just blood. The Richardsons proved that. They're Maya's real parents, the ones who showed up when it mattered. But blood matters too, just differently. Maya deserves both kinds of family, and now she has them. I learned that perfection is a lie we tell ourselves. Marcus rejected his daughter because she wasn't perfect, only to learn through Carter that no child is perfect. Love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up when things are hard, choosing to stay when it would be easier to leave. Most importantly, I learned that truth has its own timeline. I lied for 18 months thinking I was protecting everyone, but lies are just fear wearing a disguise. The truth always surfaces. Better to tell it yourself with humility and courage than have it explode in your face. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. This grandmother needs to know she's not alone in her mistakes and redemptions. Subscribe to Black Lady Tales so you don't miss more real-life stories that need to be told. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for someone everyone else gave up on? Have you ever made a mistake you didn't think could be forgiven? I want to hear from you. Tell me where you're watching from and what this story meant to you. We can't control how our stories begin. Mine began with my son rejecting his deaf daughter, calling her damaged, giving her away like she was broken. But we can control how we respond. We can give up or we can fight. We can let bitterness win or we can let love be louder. I chose love, and it changed everything. As I tell you this story today, Maya is 7, brilliant and funny and fierce. She wants to be a teacher for deaf children when she grows up, to help kids like her know they're perfect exactly as they are. She has Keisha's kindness, Robert's strength, Marcus's nose, and my grandmother's eyes. She is beautifully perfectly herself, and she is loved by 2 families who would do anything for her. That's not the ending I expected when I walked out of that hospital 5 years ago, but it's the ending we all needed. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here.